Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It is good to see you. You all survived a thunderstorm earlier this morning, I take it, even if we were rudely awakened. What?
Tornado watch up in that area.
Yeah. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Okay, all right, tornado watch, go. We are intrepid New Yorkers, are we not? That's it. And today is a wonderful day to worship God. Today is a day that God has made.
Yes.
So let us rejoice
And be glad in it.
That's it. That's right. We want you to know no matter who you are, whether you're joining us online or you're here in person, that no matter who you are and no matter where you happen to be on life's journey, you are very welcome here. In fact, worship would not be complete without you. So we're so glad that you are joining us this morning. Let's affirm God's goodness. God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
God is good.
Do it again. God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
God is good.
Amen and amen. All right, I'm going to invite our very own Linda, our deacon for this morning, to lead us in the responsive call to worship. You'll find in your bulletin, and for those of you joining us online, we're sorry, we're here in Market Chapel, so You can't project the script, the words on the live stream, but you can follow along with the bulletin that was produced in Friday's meeting.
Please join me in the call to worship. Come, open your ears to the word of God speaking to each of us.
We are listening for a word that inspires and encourages, challenges and convicts, renews and restores.
Open your minds so that the word of God can accomplish its purpose.
We are ready to receive guidance and learn new ways of being.
Open your hearts so that the seeds of God's word can take root and grow.
We welcome God to plant new possibilities in the soil of our hearts.
Come, let us worship God, whose word creates a future with hope.
We lift our voices in songs of joy to the one who overflows with blessings and love. Let us worship God.
Our opening hymn is Joyful, Joyful, We Adore You. It's number 4 in the black hymnal. We invite you to rise as you are able to join in singing this hymn.
Just so you're aware, people on Zoom can't seem to get the music. They get-
Yeah, well, hold on a minute here. Okay. Sure.
Please join me in the prayer of confession in unison. Gracious God, you bless us with good news and invite us into new life. But fears about the future and pain about the past can hover around us like hungry birds, clamoring for our attention and gobbling up our efforts. When we encounter the stony ground of difficult challenges, we often neglect to turn to you for nourishment. We can get lost in the weeds of criticism, guilt, or for shame. Our words can be as sharp and damaging as thorns. Our choices and actions can prevent the realm of restorative justice from flourishing. Forgive us, O God. Help us to cultivate fertile ground for transformative growth.
Beloved people of God, hear this glorious good news. God's grace is indeed abundant and wildly extravagant. For God freely offers each of us more forgiveness, compassion, and mercy than we can even imagine. Let the seeds of God's extravagant love take root within you, empowering you to blossom and flourish. Trust that God is at work in your life and in our world, sowing a harvest of plentiful justice, fruitful peace, and joyful new life.
Thanks be to God. Amen.
Our first lesson is from Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 55, verses 10 through 13. Knowing Mary is taller than I am, we set this up a little higher. Okay, so our voices of the prophesying Isaiah are Mary J. and Reverend Chris B. We'll be hearing from Isaiah chapter 55, verses 10 through 13.
For as the rain and snow come down from heaven, and do not return there until they have watered the earth, making it bring forth and sprout, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish that which I purpose, and succeed in the thing for which I sent it.
For you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall burst into song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Instead of the thorn shall come up the cypress. Instead of the briar shall come up the myrtle. And it shall be to the Lord for a memorial, for an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off.
Our second lesson this morning, how could I forget? We have a responsive song. So once again, Deacon Linda is going to lead the people of the congregation on this side. And let's mix it up. You guys are going to be, were you one last week? You were two. Oh, then you get to be one this week. Okay, you get to start off. And we're going to be number two as we read Psalm 65, verses 5 through 13 responsively.
By awesome deeds, you answer us with deliverance, O God, of our salvation.
You are the hope of all the ends of the earth and of the farthest seas.
By your strength, you establish the mountains. You are girded with might.
You silence the roaring of the seas, the roaring of their waves, the tumult of the peoples.
Those who live at earth's farthest bounds are awed by your signs. You make the gateways of the morning and the evening shout for joy.
You visit the earth and water it. You greatly enrich it.
The river of God is full of water. You provide the people with grain, for so you have prepared it.
You water its furrows abundantly, settling its ridges.
Softening it with showers and blessing its growth.
You crown the year with more bounty. Your wagon tracks overflow with riches.
The pastures of the wilderness overflow. The hills gird themselves with joy.
The meadows clothe themselves with flocks. The valleys deck themselves with grain. They shout and sing together for joy. Hear what the Spirit is saying to God's people. And now, we're going to hear from the Gospel according to Matthew. We're going to be hearing from Matthew chapter 13, verses 1 through 9, in which y'all are going to hear a parable you probably know fairly well. And then verses 18 through 23, which offer an explanation that may or may not have actually been given by Jesus, but is intriguing nonetheless. Now, Deacon Linda R. is going to be the voice of the author of Matthew, and Joe C. is here live and in the flesh to be the voice of Jesus.
That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there, while the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying,
Listen. The sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them up. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly, since they had no depth of soil, but when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among the thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what is sown in the heart. This is what was sown on the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet, such a person has no root, but endures only for a while. And when trouble or persecution arises on account of the word, that person immediately falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the lure of wealth choke the word, and it yields nothing. But as for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and yields. In one case, 100-fold, in another 60, and in another 30.
Hear what the Spirit is saying to God's people. Now, I'm wondering, Pat, do you like to sing harmony? Okay, great. I've got anybody else who likes to sing harmony? raise your hand. I've got a wonderful version of For the Fruit of All Creation, which we're gonna sing. That isn't what is in the black hymnal, but what's in the black hymnal is the same melody, so feel free to just follow along with that, but. Terrific. But this has a really beautiful alto line, and so some of you might want to sing that. But anyway, we're gonna sing For the Fruit of All Creation, and it's number 425 in your black hymnal. I invite those who are able to please rise. Sorry, Mary, I thought I'd given you a copy so that you could see. No problem, all right. Well, yes, I'll share it so you have it for future reference, that's right. Mary always sings wonderful alto harmony, so but that's all right. Linda and I, we did it. Well, you know, waking up this morning to a thunderstorm and my dog shivering and trying to comfort her to no avail, I was thinking of both the words in our psalm and in Isaiah about God providing lots of water and ensuring that the earth can be fruitful. It just seemed like a perfect example of how God is able to provide what is needed. Now, something else when I was looking at these texts this week that really struck me is how much joy is present in these texts. I mean, you know, after all, we hear in Isaiah that you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. A powerful message to a people who had been displaced by war, who had known the suffering of being in a foreign land, that they would be able to go back to their homeland. Is a powerful message, and that they could do so in joy, expecting peace, not more conflict, not more violence. And of course, Psalm 65 talks about how the pastures, the wilderness, the meadows, and the valley all together are going to shout and sing for joy. Back in Isaiah, of course, we hear about how the mountains and the hills are going to burst into song. What a beautiful, beautiful metaphor. and that the trees of the field are going to clap their hands. How many of you have ever seen, I want to think it's an aspen tree that has leaves like this that almost like kind of dance, right? So you can visualize what these scripture texts are conveying to us. And then we have our passage from the Gospel of Matthew, in which we are hearing Jesus talk about something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to people who have ever been involved in gardening. Talks about a sower. Okay, that's not surprising. You're gonna put some seed out there, seed that you scatter to grow, but this sower doesn't seem terribly concerned where the seed is going. Now, I haven't actually done any seed saving in my life, but I do know people who do that. And it's a bit of labor in order to be able to keep something that you've harvested, do whatever process you have to do to preserve the seeds, because it's not simply about just picking them out and sticking them somewhere. Often they need a little bit more TLC than that. But especially when I think about in Jesus' day and age, first century Palestine, these folks are having to hold back some of the harvest that perhaps could be turned into food so that they have enough to plant the following year. So you're going to be kind of concerned about where you put the seed, and you're going to do whatever you can to prepare the soil, and you're going to make sure that that seed can sprout and grow, at least as far as it depends on you. And yet this sower is scattering seed every which way without seeming to care where it lands. Not something that you'd be likely to do as a farmer in Jesus' day. So that should captivate Jesus's audience, because Jesus is trying to tell us something about who the sower is and what the sower is about. You see, big crowds have come to see and hear Jesus. He's actually gotten into a boat while they all gather at the lakeshore because, believe it or not, when you speak over water, it can kind of help your voice to be heard a little bit better. And so he's doing this as kind of a first century form of using a public address system. And he's telling them a story that invites them to imagine an activity that many of them would have had experience with. Now, either because they observed farmers doing this, in the spring, or because they themselves had done it, or at least they've heard about people doing it. Now, a good harvest in Jesus' day would have provided a Galilean farmer with probably 10 bushels for every bushel of seed. A normal return, kind of a typical year, would have probably been around 7.5, at least according to one of the biblical commentators I was reading this week. So when Jesus says that there are times that this seed is going to yield 100-fold, never mind 60 or 30, that also would have caught the attention of his audience, because that is an extraordinary yield. And yet, how much of the seed that's tossed about is actually going to grow? 75% of it doesn't actually grow into anything. We're talking about using 25% of your seed and yet getting this huge yield. Truly, truly extraordinary. Now, someone who I love to read what she has to say about scripture texts each week, Debbie Thomas, and she writes for both the Christian Century and also on the blog Journey with Jesus. She has this to say: if your experience is anything like mine, you've read this parable many times and focused exclusively on the 4 types of terrain Jesus describes. You've thought about the people that you interact with, and you wonder who might be thorny or rocky or good. Perhaps you tried to look
to find and cultivate more fertile soil in your church or in your community. You've analyzed and quantified, assessed, and judged. You've looked at ministry plans, perhaps, and strategies. Perhaps you've even looked on how to prune committees. You've, yeah, I thought that would land. You've got special plots. You've invested in organic fertilizers and effective weed suppressants. And you've counted, sorted, and planted your seeds with exquisite care, placing each bit of God's good news in its optimal place to guarantee an impressive harvest. Or else, perhaps you've read this parable, she goes on to say, and walked away feeling bad about your own faith life, feeling judged, feeling inadequate, feeling anxious. You wondered how to make your spiritual soil less hard, less rocky, less thorny. You've designed all sorts of self-improvement projects to fix what's wrong with you. More prayer, less Twitter. More Bible study, less cynicism. More church, less television. You've read the parable as an indictment of your relationship with the sower who just can't seem to find an appropriately hospitable environment in your messed up heart. But this is not a parable about the 4 types of terrain, the 4 kinds of ground, the 4 different places the seed lands. This is a parable about the sower. The sower who scatters seeds all over the place without thinking about it, without worrying about running out, without ensuring that, by golly, it will absolutely sprout and flourish right here. Everywhere, all over the place, even wastefully, extravagantly, and joyfully sowing this seed. No way to sort it out, no concern about how to save it. It just spills over through the fingers, covering the ground, and there's a sense that there will always be plenty more. Debbie Thomas goes on to say, if only our failures as the church were the opposite of what they've been in relation to this parable. How I wish we were famous for being like the sower, going out in joy, scattering seed before and behind us in the widest arcs our arms can make. How I wish the world could laugh at our lavishness instead of weeping in the wake of our stinginess. How I wish seeds of love, mercy, justice, humility, honor, and truthfulness would fall through our fingers in such appalling quantities that even the birds, the rocks, the thorns, and the shallow, sun-scorched corners of the world would burst into colorful, riotous, joyous life. So if the sower can just throw out good news everywhere, because wasn't that what Jesus did? Going around the countryside, not worrying about, are these people going to be particularly open and receptive to what I have to say? They seem a little closed-minded, I'll skip them by. No, remember just a few weeks back, we heard Jesus instructing the disciples to continue his mission, going into all the towns and the countryside and sharing the good news that the kingdom of God has come near and healing people and demonstrating the love that God has for each of us. And he says, go everywhere. Yeah, okay, some people might not be open, in which case then shake off the dust of your feet. That was the story some weeks ago. Now it's a story of don't worry about where the good things you do fall, if they are received well or not. If somebody gives you kudos for doing good, or if it goes unnoticed. That's not what I want you as my followers. That's not what I, Jesus, the sower, am all about. Wherever the seed lands is just fine. You don't need to ensure success. In the explanation, of course, for this parable, we hear about how that bountiful harvest comes about in the one who hears and understands the word. That same word from God, that good news, that possibility, that opportunity for hope and healing to take root, that God so extravagantly throws all about the earth in spite of some of the discouraging things we see. When we hear that, when we trust the truth of God's goodness at work in our world, and then we in our own lives are willing, through our words, through our actions, through our choices, through our listening and our speaking, when we're willing to live each day, all of who we are and what we do, shaped by Jesus' teachings, then we too are scattering seed of hope and possibility and joy and justice and love and compassion everywhere we go. See, Jesus stood for a possibility, and he asked us to do the same. The possibility of a world where the last come first, the hungry have enough to eat, the despised and the rejected, honored and cherished, the troubled find peace, the hungry, they have enough food to eat. The hurting are healed, the greedy lose their appetite. Power and goods are shared, forgiveness transforms relationships, goodness and mercy put hatred and fear to flight. Truth sets the imprisoned free. Justice restores community. Children are safe to play and dream and grow in gladness. And every person has the opportunity to contribute their gifts. You see, this is the possibility Jesus asked us to stand for. And every time our choices, our speaking, our listening aligns with that. In small and large ways, we too throw the seed every which way of that kingdom with joy. We need to remember the parable of the sower because it points to God's extravagance and joyfulness. It also points to the life that we can experience. Joy, gladness, sense that there is always going to be enough because God will ensure that. And that nothing we do or say is insignificant. It matters and it can make a difference. I've been told that it's appreciated when my sermons are not lengthy. So I would like to conclude with this quote that's attributed to Oscar Romero. I saw the clapping, yes. Archbishop Oscar Romero, who is a follower of Jesus, he chose, although he didn't start out this way, he chose through his solidarity with the poor and seeing their suffering, his eyes were open and he chose to use his position of authority to challenge the domination system of El Salvador. And because he did that, he was killed because of the threat he opposed to the people in power. So this may be attributed to him. It may also have been written by Bishop Ken Untenor. But whoever wrote it, it works perfectly. And you may recognize it because some years ago, I did share this with you. This is what we are about. We plant seeds that one day will grow. We water seeds already planted, knowing they hold future promise. We lay foundations that need development. We provide yeast that produces effects beyond our capabilities. We cannot do everything. There is a sense of liberation in realizing that. I think I'm going to say that a second time. We cannot do everything, but there is a sense of liberation in realizing that. This enables us to do something and to do it well. It may be incomplete, but it is a beginning, a step along the way, an opportunity for God's grace to enter and do the rest. We may never see the end results, but that is the difference between the master builder and the worker. We are workers, not master builders. Ministers, not messiahs. We are prophets of a future not our own. Trust God, who supplies us with more than enough to be able to make a difference and to be true prophets of a glorious future that doesn't belong on us, a future that is not ours to own. Thanks be to God. Amen. In our prayers this morning, we will have an opportunity for people both here in our fellowship hall in Margaret Chapel to share their joys and concerns, as well as those who are joining us online to share their joys and concerns. But in the meantime, as I used to say when I was doing children's messages, let's get quiet on the inside and quiet on the outside as we pray together. Holy and loving God, when we see discouraging news, when we hear reports of yet more gun violence or devastating storms, or people crying out in hunger, or being pushed to the side, or being bullied, it's hard for us to remember and to trust that your word, your desire for the world, it will be fulfilled. It's hard for us to trust sometimes that you just keep scattering that seed without worrying about whether or not it's going to sprout and grow. Teach us to do the same, to do our small parts in our corners of the world, to make love and compassion, grace and forgiveness, healing and justice, to make those seeds be scattered, to make those possibilities be real in our lives. God, in your mercy. God, there are plenty of places in our world that are choked by thorns, sharp, pokey things that do damage, words that are said in anger, with prejudice, places where briars tangle up efforts to do good. So help us to hear and draw strength from that wonderful prophet reminding us that that won't always be the case, and that we too can do our part to ensure the growth of the good. We pray for people in our community who are struggling, whether it's because of gun violence, lack of affordable housing, the need for affordable, nutritious food, the need for medicine and healthcare, struggle with medical debt, or struggle with any number of other human conditions. May we be instruments of your blessing. And may we help to bring more joy to our community. God, in your mercy. We pray for all who are troubled in mind, body, or spirit, those recovering from surgery, those who may be hospitalized, those who may feel the pain of loneliness and isolation, those struggling with addiction, with depression, with anxiety. Bring comfort, healing, grace, companionship, and hope. We particularly pray for Cindy N's family, who laid her father to rest yesterday, on Friday. We pray for Joe D, for Jean C, for Sue C, for Mary B's friend Andrew L, for Joe C, Peg T, Kathleen G, Alan C and his family, for Diane B, Sue C's friends Brian and Andrew, for Vitalia, Sasha, Evelina, and Adelina D, for Cheryl N, for Bob M, Mike S, Betty A C, Pa T, Don L, and Scott B. God, in your mercy. Well, gracious God, it is a gift that we can come to you, and that there are times we don't know how to put our prayers into words, but you still hear us. You still respond. You are as generous as that sower in the ways that you bring about the good in our lives. We're so grateful for that. Help us to trust in you, even as we ask you to continue to inspire and guide us with those words Jesus taught us to pray together. Our Father, our Mother, who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory.
Well, it is indeed a blessing to be able to realize all that we have, it comes from God. And you know, it seems like a simplistic thing. I've often heard, well, you can't take it with you. It's true, but what you can do is help to grow the ministries of this church. What you can do is to be a beacon of life and love through your actions and your choices. And so that's what we do. Whenever we come to worship, we offer thanksgiving for all that God has provided us. And in turn, we also rejoice that God will provide yet more. So our morning tithes and offerings to God will now be received.
Why don't you guys buy a tablet? So much bigger screen, so much to do on it. Okay. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. I'll show you Samsung. Samsung is great. And everything in it. The bigger screen, your YouTube, your TikTok, your.
Okay, somebody is not muted at the moment. So we're getting lots of feedback. So could you please check your microphone, everyone? I'm gonna go to gallery view and
I had
I
one
need to
too.
fix
I know,
something.
but it's, we were swinging now. I don't know.
Chris, are you muted?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's fascinating. I don't know what's going on. Let me see here. Ah, got it. Okay, now we're good. Daphne wasn't muted. Okay, I apologize for interrupting.
Maybe I'll start again.
I think that makes sense.
Instead of the thorn tree, the fir tree shall grow. Oh, shall I tell with full time? Oh, laugh. Oh, shall I tell with full time? The mountains of you shall break forth into song. Your peoples be led forth in peace. The earth shall be filled with the knowledge of God. As the waters cover the sea, as the waters cover the sea. Yet nations still prey on the feet of the world, and conflict turns parents from child. Your people to spoil all the sweetness of earth, as the briar in the thorn tree grows wild. The briar in the thorn tree grows wild. But to fruition your will for the shall have is strong. That wisdom and justice shall reign, and your people shall blossom in joy. Your people shall blossom in joy. Your people shall blossom in joy.
Oh, sure. Awesome. I invite you to rise and sing the doxology. Praise God. Praise God. Praise God. Praise God. I invite you to join with me now in the prayer of dedication you will find printed in your bulletin. Let us pray together. O Holy One, whose heart abounds with gifts, receive this offering as a sign of our intention to live surrounded by your mercy, inspired by your spirit, open to the joy of your presence, hospitable to one another, and generous to your world. Bless these gifts, that they may be like the seeds of your kingdom, yielding an abundant harvest of peace that heals, justice that restores, and love that liberates. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right, we have a few announcements. First off, sizzling summer fun drive. If you haven't participated yet, oh, thank you, fabulous Vanna, showing off the envelopes that are still available. So if you haven't done that yet, this is your prime opportunity. If you've done it, you think, ooh, I just might want one more opportunity to possibly win a gift card. And you want to get your envelope and put the dollar amount in that is that. If you are not able to be here in person, all you have to do is call the church office and have Tracy, when she's back in the church office, come in and see what envelopes are available, and she can tell you, and then you can claim an envelope, we'll take it off the bulletin board. All right, so sharing Saturday, we appreciate all who contributed last Saturday, and we've got another one coming up in August. So we continue to collect and receive your contributions, particularly of shelf-stable food, but also food that has a top lid kind of thing. That's easy for people to open who may not have their own kitchen to use. And also, we need all kinds of toiletries, body wash and toothpaste and toothbrushes. Some are clothing items. Have any of you ever gotten those cooling rags in the past, maybe? If that's something you've done before, or you've seen them for sale somewhere, those are always very welcome, especially by our siblings who live on the streets. And then, of course, we also need men's briefs. That's important as well. So whatever you're able to donate in addition to the summer clothing on those items would be greatly appreciated. Now, very exciting, our third of 4 visioning sessions, I got it up now, there we go, is happening next Sunday, and it's happening on Zoom at 1 o'clock. So we will have our worship service. I'll try and have a brief sermon again, yes. And then we will have an opportunity for all of us to get together on Zoom at 1 p.m. And this is going to be a really interesting one, because we're going to learn and hear from some reports about some of the demographics of the community in which we're located. We're going to learn more about what we call the context, the location, the setting in which we do ministry here, that will help to inform, our visioning process. So it's going to be really, really interesting. I hope you'll be part of that. And then finally, you will be aware, I hope, that Tracy, I forgot to mention her, I apologize, Tracy. But Tracy had surgery this week. She made it through okay, but she is recovering. And so she will probably be working from home for at least a portion of the week next week. So just be aware of that. As always, call the church office before you come in, just to make sure somebody's in there, because I go out and do pastoral visits and other sorts of things. And finally, we've got some UCC webinars that are listed here in your bulletin on page 7. We also put them in the e-news. They might be of interest to you as well. And deacons will be meeting today after worship. And this Thursday, the trustees will be meeting at 5:30 on Zoom.
No. 6:30.
Sorry. Oh, I didn't know that. It changed. Okay. You gotta let me know. Okay, 6:30. Thank you very much. 6:30 is happening. I was not present for the June meeting, so now I know. Yay! That's good. 6:30 on Zoom for trustees. Any other announcements? Hot diggity dog, look at this. We're going to sing our closing hymn right now, which is super fun. And I hope you all sing it with gusto, because I know you know this melody. You are salt for the earth, O people. It's number 181 in the black hymn.
You are salt for the earth, O people, salt for the grain of God. Share the flavor of life, O people, God. are a seed of the word, O people. Bring forth the rainbow crop. Seeds of mercy and seeds of justice grow in the city of God. Bring forth the rain of mercy. Bring forth the rain of peace. Bring forth the rain of justice. Bring forth the city of God. We are blessed as a pilgrim people. Come, bring of God. Come to the end of our homeland. Come, this is the city of God. Bring forth, bring forth peace. Bring forth reign of justice. Bring forth the city of God.
May that joyful gladness continue to carry you through the rest of your week. May the extravagance of God's joyful exuberance be felt in your lives this week. And may you remember that in everything you say and do, in your moments of quiet and in your moments of activity, you are prophets of a future not your own. And the blessing of the earth maker, the pain bearer, and the life giver go with you this day and always. Amen.
Amen.
If you are able, we have awesome ice cream and other delights. And if we can all move the chairs to the side, then we can set up some tables for everybody to eat.